الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم آمين. You can go ahead and start. Okay, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah first we congratulate mashallah Sheikh Jibani, mashallah. And I heard that because he got the iPad 3 and he has the iPad 2, so the iPad 2 is on sale. A special price for this group. Assumptions, assumptions. No, alhamdulillah. May Allah help you to use it in ta'atillah, inshallah. Inshallah. Yeah, it could be easily distractor, these iPads and iThingies. Yeah. طيب. Oh, there you go, mashallah. A helper, mashallah. No iPad, Baba. طيب. Let's go ahead and start, inshallah. This is where we left off last time. We actually covered this, but just to make sure, because there were, I think, about 3 people that were not here last time. So just to make sure we cover this, and it's a quick review for us. So we said that these attributes that we'll cover were the isti'la and istifal. These are the attributes. So we said that the attribute is elevation and lowering, isti'la and istifal. And what is the position of the tongue in this case to ensure that there is isti'la? What is the position of the tongue? The posterior portion of the tongue, the back portion of the tongue should be touching the soft portion of the roof of the mouth here. So by doing that, you're actually doing isti'la. Okay? The result of isti'la in terms of the action on the letter is called tafkhim. The result. Okay. So the attribute is elevation, but the result is that the letter becomes mufakham. And the result of istifal, when the posterior portion of the tongue or the back portion of the tongue is not touching the back portion of the roof of the mouth, then it becomes lowered. And so when it's lowered, then it becomes tarqiq, or the opposite of heaviness, which is lightness of the letter. We said that there are these 7 letters that are supposed to be giving us the tafkhim or isti'la. We should always be putting these at a point of elevation. And we said that the mnemonic for this was khussa ضغط قض. Khussa ضغط قض. But just to make sure that khussa ضغط قض is not the order of the actual the levels of tafkhim, because within the 7, the heaviest of all is going to be ta, and the lowest of them is going to be kha. So on kha, I wouldn't say kho. That's just exaggerating or forcing some level of tafkhim in it. So I wouldn't say kho, but kha. Kha is enough. Kha. And that back of the tongue should be touching the back of the roof of the mouth. Kha. Kha. And then gha and qa, dha, ta. And notice here, we said that within these 7, that there were 4 of these letters that actually happen to have itbaq. Do you remember itbaq, which is adhesion? What was adhesion? Oh, adhesion?
Sticking the tongue to the roof of the mouth.
Yes. The whole tongue goes up for these 4 letters. It's not a coincidence that it's these 4, the top 4, that are going to have the entire tongue being elevated. The entire tongue, called itbaq. So the adhesion of the entire tongue to the roof of the mouth, the whole roof of the mouth. Okay. So while all of these, the back is going to be elevated, but on the top 4, we're going to notice that the entire tongue will be elevated. So on ta, it's not enough to say ta from the back, but it's ta, ta, and that elevation, that adhesion that occurs elevates the ta. Now within these here, so for every one of these situations, so keep in mind that this is the highest elevated, and in the way kind of it's partly me that I somehow have my own ways of remembering these. Within these four, the one the ta, of course I kind of try to remember that it's the top here. My name Kha happens to be the lowest. So ta is the most, and within the four, the one with the dot is the last of the four. Okay, and then it starts with the dad and then the sad. So it's just my way of trying to picture this to remember this. For each one of these letters, we said that the state of elevation is even more when you have a vowel, this voweled letter. So the qaf itself, or the ta, or whatever. So we'll take the example of a qaf. The qaf itself has actually a fatha on top of it, but it's when it's followed especially with an alif, so alif al-mad, so it becomes qa, qa. So that's, imagine if it was a ta, then it would have been even more. So it would have been tala or talut, talut. That's why it would be more elevated than just saying qala, talut, as opposed to qala. So that's so giving the example of qaf, when it's voweled like a fatha and followed by an alif or alif al-mad, then it makes it highest elevate. Then if it is just a fatha by itself without the alif al-mad is the next level, so it becomes slightly lower, so that it becomes qabil, qabil. Okay, so that's the second elevate. And then if it was not a fatha, if it was not a, it was just a dhamma, then it would have been the third level. And then if it is just a sukoon, then it's the fourth level. Then if it is a kasra, it's the fifth level. Okay, so within each one of these, as I said, then these are the four levels of, so fatha is on top, and then dhamma, and then sukoon, and then kasra. But within the fatha, if it's a fatha followed by an alif, it's the highest level as opposed to just a fatha by itself. Okay, any questions on these? تفضل.
I don't remember if I asked this question, but I don't remember the answer. For the middle one, voweled by fatha, is it just fatha and alif, or is it all ahruf in them?
You mean here?
Yeah, so can it be voweled by a kasra and followed by a ya?
No, because in that case it would be the fifth level. Because harf, the letter itself, the qaf or so, if it's followed by a ya, so right, if it's it would be the fifth level. If it is a dhamma followed by a waw, then it would be a dhamma, and it would be this level here. So it has to be the fatha situation. Okay, so we talked about these, and so just generally speaking, again, lowering this down into the vowels, fatha is the strongest, dhamma is the second, kasra, and between them comes the kind of the sukoon. Okay, one thing we noted last time, and we said that this here, we want to make sure, because it's the lowest level, we want to make sure that we don't force a tafkhim in it. So the fact that the back of the tongue is elevated when we say the qaf, that's adequate enough, and so we don't have to say qila, qila, that's forcing. Qila is adequate, qila, not qila. Qila is forcing a tafkhim in there that shouldn't be there.
Would it be wrong?
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. Yes. Yeah. Sheikh Ayman al-Suwaid warns about this. Yeah, Sheikh Ramadan al-Sabbagh, one of the great teachers of Tajweed here in New York, warns about this. Sheikh Uthman, they warn about this because it's the tendency. Because knowing that it's khussa, daght, and qidh, you want to make a tafkhim out of it. But it's now understanding the different levels that it's the lowest, as long as it touches the back by saying qila, the back of the tongue touching the back of the roof of the mouth, that's an adequate tafkhim for that level. Okay, we're good with this. This is just a review. Okay, any questions?
So, let's say a different example.
Yes.
Well, if the fatha followed by a yud, dhamma followed by a waw, and kasra followed by a ya.
Yes, that's a med. Yes, that's when it happens. Yes.
Also, it's just not written on it, but that's what it is.
Let me understand the question. Can you repeat the question?
So remember how I was asking you originally, fatha followed by alif, and then
Uh-huh.
you showed me the bottom two. So the one right in the middle, the one that says followed by dhamma, does it just happen to be followed by a waw, or
Oh,
does
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Because of the example. Oh, okay. Because of the example. But for example, we could say qu'ud. Qu'ud is just a dhamma. The qaf has a dhamma on top of it. There is no med. So it doesn't have to be followed by a med. It's only when it's followed by an alif of med. In this case, it happens to be that the example has a. Now I understand what you're referring to. Yeah. Yeah, قبل. But of course, yeah. You mean here? Yeah, but this is just a fatha by itself. So similarly, you can have a dhamma by itself or a kasra by itself.
What's the degree of difference in the heaviness when you're doing the qala
Mm.
and qabl?
قبل. قبل as opposed to قال. قال. That alif there produces more weight, gives it more weight. قال. قال. قال as opposed to قبل. قبل. قال. Slight, subtle. And that's where the training comes. And you can imagine, I mean, I'm saying it here, but you bring an expert, a real expert in the field, you're going to maybe notice the difference more. That's the reality of things. You know, we learn about this, we practice it. It takes so much to practice it, but you bring somebody else, you start to notice the difference. And that's what I would encourage you, and I encourage myself all the time, that when I find somebody who is just exceptional in some area, I capture them and I say, listen to me. When we were at the chapter leadership meeting, I met Sheikh Ramadan al-Sabbagh. I requested, please give me a few minutes, half an hour of just listening to me and just finding, maybe fine-tuning some of my qira. And I encourage you all the time, just find the right person to help you figure this out, inshallah. طيب. This was the itbaq portion that we said, what we covered earlier, that we said that we have these 4 letters where the entire adhesion would occur. It's part of the 7. Again, just a quick review of what we did last time. Now, do you notice any pattern in these? These here are a set, and these are a set, and so on. These sets refer to what? What is this? Yes, makharij. These are the makharij. So let's try, and this is part of what we start to, as we build more things, is quickly review few things because it's related to what we talk about. So help me out. What is the makharaj of these 6? Hamza and ha, ayn and ha, ghin and kha. Throat. Within the throat, there is the bottom portion of the throat, there is the middle portion of the throat, and there is the upper portion of the throat. So starting from where? We start from this. This is the most bottom, Hamza and Ha. And then Ain and Ha, the ones without the dot, in the middle. And then the Ghain and Kha with the upper portion of the throat. Okay? And then we said this here. And these two are what? What is the makhraj for these two? Back of the tongue. Kaf and Qaf. The order of it is going to be that the Qaf is more deep, it's closer to the throat, and the Kaf is a little bit closer to the outer portion of the mouth. Qa and Ka. Qa, Ka. Qa, Ka. So this is a little bit deeper than this one. And then we come to the middle portion of the tongue. Okay, so beyond this was the throat, these become the tongue. And so for the middle portion of the tongue, it's aj, ash, and ay. Okay, ay, ash, and aj. So these are the middle portion of the tongue. And then these here are, this is the side. With the lam, it's going to al, right? Al, it's going to take the side, but it's going to be actually closer to the front portion of the tongue, as opposed to dad. It's really the side, complete side for the dad. And we said that with the dad, there will be the front portion would actually do some form of sliding, which we call istitala. We'll talk about that in another attribute. Just this is a quick review. And then we come to these. And for these, I would like to kind of work almost backwards. So these are what? This is the tip. This is just the tip of the tongue. Adh, av, and ath. This is just the tip. And then these here, this is the tongue with the what? Yeah, with the teeth. But which the lower portion of the teeth. So the lower. As, as, and as. Okay, the lower. These are the only ones with the lower portion or with the lower teeth. And then these come here, the ones that are with the upper portion of the teeth. So we say at, ad, and at. Okay, okay. Now, and then we come to these here, the noon and the ra. These are again with this portion of the tongue here. But when we say these two, the positions are slightly different on these two. And this is where the topic for today is on ra. So to understand ra, we need to first understand the noon. So how do we say the noon? An. So this part of the tongue, this covers the jaw, this part here. Maybe a small portion of it would touch the roots of the teeth, a small portion. On these here, ta, ta, and dal, a good portion of the teeth will be touched. Ad, at, and at. But on an, it's primarily the jaw, the rough portion of the jaw, of the upper jaw here. Okay, so it's on that, the an, and it completely, and this is very important. Okay, very important, because we need to understand the ra in this context. When the noon, when the tongue touches this portion here, it completely seals it, completely. Okay, completely. And so when it seals it completely, the only way out for the sound to come should be through the nose. Only way out. An. So you press on that noon, okay, on the tongue. You press an. And that's why, when we talked about ghunna, I was saying that you want to make sure that the ghunna, there's that ringing noise of in the nose. It has to. The nasal sound has to be strong. And you can only make sure of that when you can put a complete pressure, complete seal of the tongue on the jaw here. Now, the ra, when we talk about the makhraj of the ra here, it's in a similar position. Okay, the an and the noon and the ra are very similar in terms of their position, but the position of the tongue is not the same. So while we say an, when we say ar, while you have the noon, for the noon completely sealing it like this, for the ra, the position of the tongue is that it's going to have a slight curve. So it's not going to be like this. It's going to have a slight curve to it. Ar. So the sides of while in the noon, the whole tongue is covering the whole thing. With the ra, you're going to notice something like that if it's a front view. I'm going to show you a picture that will not show you the front view. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a picture of it. But if you're going to look at it from outside, the ra should have this. So the sides cover, but there is a small tip, a small opening at the front. Okay, it's that's the one that will cause ar. You want to make sure when you say that you don't repeat that process. So you don't want to say ar. Yeah. It's a bad attribute of the ra. There's a tendency to make that, but it's a bad attribute of the ra. Okay, so ar. So let's look at this now. So this is what we're referring to, that the tongue is going to be creating this space here. Okay. Now, when you look, unfortunately, if you're going to have a front view of it, unfortunately, is from the side, it seems like you're seeing the tongue the same, but from the front, you should be seeing a little bit of a space. Ar. It should be that. So you try to position your tongue like that. So you don't want to do ar, flatten it, because it will make it ar, and you don't want that. It's like a spoon shape. That's a beautiful description of it. Yes, like a spoon. But again, notice that there is pressure on the sides, but the middle there's a slight opening. Okay, that's this. Now, of course, the tongue has two positions. The ra has two levels. The ra has two levels. We said that at all times, خص ضغط قذ are always elevated, right? Always. استعلاء causing تفخيم, meaning elevation that will cause heaviness of the خص ضغط قذ. But then we said with the lam, if you remember, the lam it's always lowered except with لفظ الجلالة, right? With the word of Allah. but it's otherwise it's al-alim, al. But with what lafz of al-jalala, it's elevated. So there were some situations with the lam. Similarly, with the ra, there are multiple situations that at times it's going to be elevated, at times it's going to be light. So which means that the position on the location, the articulation point that we're referring to is not going to be exactly identical. Because when you have it elevated, we go back to the concept of elevation. Elevation is what? Elevation is when you put the back of the tongue elevated slightly. That's what elevation is. And so what you're going to be seeing here is comparing these two, there's a bigger gap with the ra that is light when you say ri, ri, as opposed to ra, ra. Ra, when you say this tongue has this shape that closes this gap. Those are the two. The front aspect will be identical. The front of the tongue, ri and ra, would be identical. It's just that this shape of the tongue creates this different sound that is being produced. Okay. Any question on this? And we're going to go through a number of these examples, but there are different conditions that will make the ra at times elevated and at times lowered. We're going to talk about those in detail. But just to kind of go over these and distinguishing, the sound of the ra when it's elevated or heavy and when it's light. So let's go through this. We say al-Qur'an, al-Qur'an. Repeat after me. Al-Qur'an. Again. Yeah. Qur'an. Qur'an. طيب. We're going to do these numerous. So let's do this here. يرحمنا. يرحمنا. Beautiful, mashallah. The ya sounded very good. One thing to watch for these, and this is the mashallah. This is the thing with the tafkhim and tarqiq. It's one of the most critical parts of tajweed, because when we know which letters are supposed to be mufakham, it means all others will be lowered or light. So when we say some letters are going to be heavy, the others should be light. The problem is the following, that a letter that is going to be heavy tends to attract, its heaviness attracts a light letter towards it. And that's a problem. You need to distinguish the light from the heavy. That's the rule. But if there is, so you need to watch for this. So for example here, the ya, it's easy for me to say ya. Ya is, it's not elevated. The elevated portion of it would be ya. And I'm not saying it ya. It's supposed to be ya. And I'm saying it ya. But when I do this here, when I put it next to a letter, and we'll talk about this condition, but in this case, it's supposed to be elevated in this case. So if I say this now and I say it's wrong, and because I want to make the ra mufakham heavy, ra, so I might have the tendency to say yarhamuna, yar. When it's, but if I was to listen to the ra separately, ya, yar. Why am I elevating ya? It shouldn't be ya. It's supposed to be ya. Yarhamuna. Yeah, that's the challenge. So we need to work on this a lot. Okay. Here, let's do this. Rahmah. Rahmah. Very good. Yeah. Don't use the kind of the lips to force tafkhim. So don't say rahmah. Rahmah is wrong. It's rahmah. 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 Very good. Ruh. Now look at this, the muraqqaq portion. Rijal. Very good. MashaAllah. Rih. This one here, Fir'aun is always lowered in the Quran, so that's good. Fir'aun. Miryah. MashaAllah. Hashirin. Okay. وَإِن تَشْكُرُوا. Very good. So now what we'll do is, why is it at times that we make it elevated? Why is it at times that we make it lower? Numerous conditions for ra. It's slightly complicated, but inshallah we try to simplify this. Okay. So this is what we have in this case. The first rule of ra And if I lose you, let me know on these. The first rule of Ra is that if you found the Ra to be voweled, okay, voweled with either a fatha or a dhamma, there is no exception to this. Voweled with a fatha or a dhamma, it's always heavy. Okay, so in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying rahmah. You cannot say rahmah. Rahmah is lowering it. You want to say rahmah, rahmah. Similarly, ruh. The reason is simply because it either has a fatha or a dhamma. Okay, so in other words, the opposite becomes true. That if it's voweled but it has a kasra, it's going to be light. So that is why in the example that we gave earlier, so we say in this case, rijal and rih. Rijal, rih. So let's inshallah just do this just to make sure the ra comes good. So inshallah I'm going to rotate again inshallah and just listen to these four and we'll start with the right side inshallah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, MashaAllah. Continue inshallah. Salma. Again, لا فخميها شوية. أيوة. ما شاء الله. ما شاء الله. Okay, just the ha here. We don't want to forget everything we've learned. رحمة. ما شاء الله. روح. أيوة, there you go. ما شاء الله. ما شاء الله. ما شاء الله. Beautiful. We'll continue this way.
رحمة.
ما شاء الله.
روح. رجال. ريح.
ما شاء الله.
رحمة. روح. رجال. ريح.
Okay. And the kasra, watch out. It's not rijal. It's not rijal. Rijal. There you go. It's not rijal, it's rijal. Yeah, rijal. MashaAllah. Next one. Rih. There you go. That one there. Slight difference, but watch for that, inshallah. Husam.
رحمة. روح. رجال. ريح.
MashaAllah. Repeat this, Husam.
رحمة.
Yeah. رحمة.
رحمة. روح.
MashaAllah. جميل. سعد.
رحمة. روح. رجال.
جميل. ما شاء الله. ختمنا.
رحمة.
جميل. ما شاء الله. رو. فخميها شوية. روح. أيوة. ما شاء الله. ارجعي الأولي مرة ثانية. أيوة. ما شاء الله. أيوة. ما شاء الله. جميل. ما شاء الله. الكسرة ممتاز. هذه شوية يبغى لها تفخيم. You're doing the right مخرج but not enough تفخيم. روح. روح. The back of the tongue is not elevated. You're doing the right مخرج here but the back مش elevated enough. روح. أيوة. ما شاء الله. Very good. This one again. رحمة. There you go. هذه آخر واحدة. Perfect. The last one was perfect. خد جيلان. أيوة. ما شاء الله. جميل. جميل. ما شاء الله. سمع. Can you repeat these again? ما شاء الله. روح. Yeah. روح. There you go. ما شاء الله. Last one was perfect. Continue إن شاء الله. ما شاء الله. خد تسنيم is it? Yes. ما شاء الله. جميل. ما شاء الله. Very good. So inshallah let's keep this. So earlier when just going back to some of these examples, just the ones with the, this is a kasra, supposed to be a kasra. So أنا آسف. تفضل. You memorized it by now, right? Okay, go ahead. جميل. جميل. Can you repeat this one? رجال. جميل جميل، الله يفتح عليك.
رحمة.
ما شاء الله.
روح.
ما شاء الله, you brought a روح with it. That was good. That was good. Good.
رجال.
ما شاء Allah. Beautiful. So I was saying here, so now we see that if this is a kasra, and it is a kasra, so we say حاشرين. So why is it muraqqaq? Because it has a kasra. Okay? And similarly here, these were mufakham. Okay? So and this one here, rijal and rih, why was it lowered? Because it is kasra. So that's the first rule. So fairly straightforward. But of course, you might have a condition where the ra, so if it has a fatha or a dhamma, straightforward, elevate. If it's a kasra, lower. But unfortunately, at times, you might have a situation that is the ra having a sukoon, and that's where the complication comes. It's non-voweled. It has a sukoon on top of it. So if it has a sukoon, how do you handle this? It's not one of the three. It's not fatha, dhamma, or... So what do you do? Look at the letter before. So you look at the letter before. And the same rule that you have applied earlier applies again. So if the letter before, so if it in itself has, can you keep it quiet please? Habibi, can you? Jazakallah khair. If the letter has a sukoon on it, then you look at the letter before, and if it has a fatha or a dhamma, similar to the first condition that we looked at, then it will force the tafkhim into the ra, even though the ra in itself is a sukoon. So when the ra has a sukoon, it's conditional. Unlike the fatha and the dhamma automatically creates a tafkhim, and the kasra creates a tarqiq, but when it has a sukoon, it's conditional. If the condition prior to it, if the letter prior that precedes it is a dhamma or a fatha, automatically you make the same tafkhim. So in this case, when we recite, we have to make it a mufakham, because the qaf has a dhamma. So we'll say al-Qur'an, al-Qur'an. Okay? Let me hear this one here. So we'll start with this one here, and then we'll go to this one. Okay? And I want, because there is a potential error that could be introduced here. So I want to, maybe we'll start this time with Husam, working.
Al-Qur'an.
MashaAllah. Beautiful. تفضل طارق. جميل. The repetition? There you go. جميل. MashaAllah. That's very good.
Al-Qur'an.
MashaAllah. جميل. MashaAllah.
Al-Qur'an.
MashaAllah. 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 The ra, give it more. Yeah, it was said like qur. It's not qur. Qur'an. MashaAllah. There you go. Very good. Salma. فخم الراء. Better. It was better. We're getting there. MashaAllah. Much better. MashaAllah. Jameel. Wow. Jameel. MashaAllah. Yeah, the more you make it clear as mufakham, the better. Qur'an. طيب خذ. أي جميل. كمان مرة. أيوة القر. أيوة في watch out, don't say qur. It's not that's an American ra, which I cannot even make. Okay, so القر تفضلي. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا معلش فخميها. القر معلش, this needs practice. You knew that. Yeah. شوية. You said qur. You said qur. Better. We're getting there. كمان مرة. القر. Better. I'm going to come back to you inshallah. يا سعاد. تفضلي. مفخميها شوية. لا, you're saying qur. You're saying qur. قر. حلو. Much better. ما شاء الله. Going back to sister Mana. تفضلي. لا, I'll come back. حاولي كمان مرة. better. I'll come back to you inshallah. Sister Sana. MashaAllah, beautiful, very good. Oh, Jilan, Ma'adar. You did? Oh yeah, we went this way. One more. Elevation. Al-Qur. But you made repetition. You want to avoid repetition. Don't say Qur, Qur. Avoid that repetition. Again. Al-Qur. Yeah, again. Okay, the whole thing. MashaAllah. Very good. Very good. MashaAllah. خد تسنيم. مرة ثانية. جميل ما شاء الله. طيب, this one here. شمشة. Oh, yeah, I thought I forgot you, but I did not.
When you have the ra or the sukuna on it, so you end saying it and then you say the next letter. So like you completely stop when it has the sukuna on it.
Yeah, Al-Qur'an.
So you can express it. So you end with that letter to go to the next letter, so you can express the ra.
Yeah. If I understand, are you saying silence?
Not
Are you saying?
silence. Well, there's going to be like a gap in between.
Yes. You want to separate, and that's the tendency that I wanted somebody to make the mistake, and nobody made that, because the tendency is that this alif will be pulled towards that ra. So you would hear people say, for example, Al-Qur'an, Qur'an, or Qur'an. You know, it's elevated. Alhamdulillah, we can't even make the mistake. That's good. Yeah.
About the rule, I thought like if the rock has a shadda on the
We'll come to the mushaddad, inshallah. We'll come to the mushaddad. Yeah. But what you're doing now is, you know, you're creating that kind of concave shape of the tongue. You're creating that by doing this. For when you say Al-Qur'an, so you're actually making the tongue touch the upper jaw here. You're making it touch here.